All
right, I'm coming. I'm
You
almost
coming?
there. Almost there. I'm
There?
almost in
Are you
frame.
there?
I'm
Oh
almost in
no.
frame.
I mean, I just see nothing but just like, what are you trying to? Oh, I thought you was gonna like reappear, like
No,
kind of come out of the background and try to do some kind of weird
David
stuff or something.
David Copperfield shit.
Yeah. I thought you was gonna just kind of pop out and do something. I was like, oh, see, you were just trying to show off. That's why. So anyway, welcome everyone. The Dev and the Gamer is back, and yes, we're on schedule. Now we're not on time, but that's not all because of me. So, so if people want to blame KMEGA for this one, no. This was some things that we had to do in the back behind the scenes. But also, thank you so much. And you know what? Let me go ahead and get all this out right now. Scratch the nose, wiggle the head, and stuff like that, because I got to remember I'm on camera. And so like last time, my nose was itching. It just seemed like why is my nose itching? Why am I, my face is, and I think it's because I'm not used to being on camera like this, and so now I'm going to be more poised, more professional, more together. So I don't know what's going on with you, Don. How you doing, brother?
I'm doing all right, man. Doing the final little cleanups on the layout of the podcast. So got that all squared away, and giving a little bit of that sass and the all that sort of stuff going on. And I think the chat should be working now. So when you guys type in, the chat should pop up. And then a little bit of a housekeeping. Notifications work on both our Twitch channels. So KMEGA is hosting me on his channel. Obviously, we're live on my channel. If you do a follow, tweet, or anything like that, it's going to show up above KMEGA, and it's going to show up above me. So we're going to try to make this stream a little bit more interactive for you guys and get you guys all squared away. So hopefully you guys enjoy it.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And I typed it in, but I don't know, some reason. Let me do it again, just to make sure on here. There we go. All right, let me hit that host again. All right, there we go. Oh, it says hosting. Okay, just gotta. It just was showing just my name or whatever. But I forget if I go to the beginning and they'll see where it's hosting. Okay, forgive me. I'm still new to this stuff on Twitch. But anyway, thank you guys for coming and checking us out, and for the guys who'll be checking us out later. Man, there's a lot to pack in. Today was an incredible day. We're already starting the week really crazy, already 2 days in. There was a lot of information to talk about, and then there's some stuff that we want to talk about that was from last week as well. So we might as well get into it. But the first thing I want to kind of touch on and address is talking about Drew Murray. I know, as you being a developer and things like that, I myself, I was excited for him to come over from Insomniac and come over to be, I believe, the lead designer over there in the initiative. And they have all of that talent. And so I'm just thinking of like, dang, what the thing they're going to do. And then, of course, we find out about Perfect Darkness coming out. And now, all of a sudden, you found out that he had some tragedy in his family. I believe that it was his brother that passed away, I believe. And then he had to step down. So, rightfully so, take all the time you need. Well, then all of a sudden, to yesterday, I believe, he decided that he was going to post a pic of him going back to Insomniac. Now, this is my thing. Before that, the PlayStation community or the Xbox community go up, and especially the Xbox community go up in an uproar. I made a point by saying, look, pump the brakes before people start trying to put on the tinfoil hat, trying to make this into something more, try to find in and dig, oh, he loves PlayStation more than he loves Xbox. There's all these type of turmoil issues that's going on, blah, 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 blah. I think it's really unnecessary, because I think people grieve differently. And that's why I wanted to ask you on this one, Don, is, I might do something different if somebody, like, let's say my mother passed away, or someone really close to my close cousins or whatever passed away. I might do something different than what Drew Murray did. But again, when it comes to people looking for comfort, they might just go back to where they first was, and that's probably the most comfortable place for him. I'm saying kudos, and I wish the best for him and for his family and all of that. But the one thing I wanted to point on, and I wanted to ask you this, was we see that people's private business is valuable, more valuable than ever now. And I just think that it's just be one of those things. Is like, just let that man do his business in peace. What do you think about this, Don?
Yeah, it's hard when you're in the public face, and I don't think I mean, the world we live in is nothing's private, right? We're always putting themselves out there in some sort of form or fashion. It's why I try to keep a lot of the studios I work for private and stuff like that, because their views and opinions are not necessarily my views and opinions, right? In regards to that, and a lot of times I'm under a contract, so if I'm leaving there and then going to the other thing, people start thinking the worst of whatever that studio is. No, just my contract's up, right? Obviously this is not his case. He had a tragedy in his family, and you don't know what that involves. To be perfectly honest with you, he's got to, he probably wants to work. Give you an idea, because a lot of people think California is like small, and it's not. It's really, it's really, really long. In San Francisco and LA, it's equivalent to 4 or 5 states or several different countries to a lot of different places. So it is ways to be from he was familiar and where he was kind of settled at before. So you never know. Like, say, like, your mom. I know your mom lives in the same state as you, right? So say you lived in, let's say, Washington, and your mom had some sort of health problems and you had to be there for her, right? Well, that would require you to move. So that means you hate where you work, and you're dealing with some sort of stuff, and you probably have to work out there, right? And so that's just kind of how I look at that sort of stuff. And I think also too, when you're going through turmoil, it's easier to work with people you're more familiar with, a little bit more at home. You feel a little more comfortable in that space because you know what the limits are, you know what you can do, what you can't do, that sort of thing, right? You feel a little more comfortable speaking out loud about certain things, and you don't feel like you're stepping on another creator's toes or something like that. So I wouldn't look at anything other than that. I think people try to read way too much when people leave studios, and developers are transient outside of family tragedy. And so it doesn't mean like this studio is bombing or that studio is bombing. I mean, every studio, and be honest with you, some of the best games, every studio goes through turmoil as a studio before a good product comes out. I don't think there's a single good product out there that doesn't go through some sort of turmoil before that. I mean, you can take every single Halo. You always hear about stories behind the scenes of how, they had this problem or had that problem. Yeah, because they're pushing themselves to the limit, to the best of what they can do. And they're kind of working on undiscovered territory. Some of the best studios deal with that sort of stuff, if you get where I'm going with that.
Well, no, I totally agree with that. I think, it's just, for me, it's I appreciate that he just was honest about it, and listen, it's like the point that you're making is, when he wherever, I don't know where he actually came from or whatever, where he lived or where his family that passed away lived, but obviously, him going back, to me, felt like he was just wanting to get back into his comfort zone. And also, on top of that, the people in the initiative doesn't know him like the people in Insomniac knows. That's why I was like, just back off. That just, to me, that would make sense for him to go back into his comfort zone. And that was another.
It's almost like family at that point, right?
Right. They know his family. They can grieve with him.
They're probably barbecued with his family or whatever. Right, who knows, right? Like,
right.
There's a lot more to it than I think what people realize, and the practicality behind it. I mean, they're people first, and I think we need to understand that. And then the product is a product, and no reason to be upset about a product until a product comes out. There's no reason to pull the fire alarm and because you heard this or you heard that. I hear shit all the time, like, and I don't know what's true, what's not. It's just even murmurs within the industry, right? And so I know better. It's always important how you act and not how you react to situations when it comes to this sort of stuff. And have a little bit of humanity for the guy. You know what I mean? Like, I think he's a super talented dude, and I wouldn't mind working with him at some point in my career, because I think he has a lot to offer. And the fact is that Insomniac's a good studio, and I'm glad he's going to a talented studio. So I mean, I know he won't go to waste, and it wasn't at a waste on the initiative. So I mean, it's a net positive across the board. So
Right, and also the another thing I wanted to ask you about that was the he was lead designer at the initiative. He's the principal designer at Insomniac. Now, is it that wouldn't that be considered like maybe a step down, or is that same even type of
every studio is
thing,
structured
whatever?
differently.
Okay.
So it depends on the description of the job description.
Hmm.
In regards to that. So what is one, like for example, lead character designer is typically what I do a lot of that sort of stuff, and that's usually roles I get labeled with. And but they'll come with some other fancy word for it, right? At another
Hmm.
studio, and it's just whatever. In regards to that, just it's what they use to internally communicate within the studio. So
Okay.
I don't think it's a universal definition when you're dealing with that, and just kind of keep that in mind. I think people read a little too much into that stuff, and that's a pitfall for sure.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. I just wanted to get that because that's why I was like, look, I don't even know. It might sound like it was kind of not of a it was maybe a lesser role, and that could have also added into it. But like you said, I don't need to put the tinfoil hat on. That's why I was asking you, what did it
Yeah.
mean? But yeah, no. My last point on this is just basically like let the man breathe, let him do what he needs to do. Privacy is very valuable in these times because there's a lot of people that wants to get into everybody's business. So,
I mean,
let it be.
the most egregious. I understand like gamers falling into that trap because
Yeah.
they don't know. They're not outside looking in. The most
Hmm.
egregious that I saw was David Jaffe saying something about it, and
Oh yeah, I did see that.
his
I
little
did see
jab,
that.
and he apologized later, like he realized that he was in the wrong. So I'll give him credit where credit's due. But he knows better. He knows better.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
saw
like
that. And I was like,
I mean, I'm sure he's worked with people that are kind of ride and die with you thought ride and die, and then something happens, and then they leave to another studio, and it's nothing personal. They just and it wasn't a reflection on his leadership because he's been in leadership roles, right? It just sometimes it just wasn't what they were inspiring to do. There's a lot of different things that factor into that sort of stuff. So I just I would say even people in the industry fall in those same traps, and it's been there, and it's not only been there at like a low level position, but a high level position. Thankfully that's not the norm. Not most developers fall into those traps. If you get where I'm going with
well, I
that,
think it's also the
yeah,
company that you keep too that also can
yeah,
enhance
that
those type of things,
that
right?
that can, yeah, you can fall into those sort of things with the people you hang out with, and sometimes
Right.
you gotta be true to yourself, man. You gotta true to yourself and true to what you know, regardless of what's popular within your circle. So
Yeah, no doubt about it. No doubt about it. All right. Well, let's move on. Okay, let's talk about the FPS mode or boost or whatever. And we talked about it a little bit on GRG last week, but I mean, you didn't get a full say so or a breakdown of what you think about it and how important this type of technology is. And for me, like when I was breaking it up, I was just thinking of. I understand that there's a lot of people that wants to bring this narrative, and that's another thing too that I want to talk about. Maybe can be like a little extra point to this topic is narratives. But the one narrative is that people don't like playing older games, but yet I see people that likes to play Demon Souls, or I see people that wants to talk about games that's been out since last gen, like an Overwatch or a Call of Duty or some other game, and then praise it. Or like basically, people talk about God of War. We talk about Halo and Halo 5 especially. Look at that gameplay. That should be my gameplay. I think I was helping you assist to kill that person. But anyway,
always the person assists, never the one that gets the kills.
stop it, stop it. Don't listen to that slander, ladies and gentlemen. But anyway, but no, I just think, um, how important is this for Xbox to do this? And there was something that Lemon brought up. And shout out to 108. He's finally going to be having the Dragons Den pop off this Saturday. So man, definitely will be. So I hope you guys will check that out. Wish my brother so much success with that.
Blast
With
out
him
his
having
channel,
his own
man.
podcast.
Like seriously, like
Yeah.
give him a good splash. Everyone, like do what you
Oh yeah.
can. That
Yeah.
man will
I'll definitely
break
do that.
down and cry if you give him 100 views. I swear. So
No,
just
yeah. Yeah. No
he
doubt
really
about
does
it.
have a big heart. As much as he's got a big mouth, he's got a big heart, right? So
Yeah, yeah, yeah. He's good people, man. He's my brother, man. It just, what I'm saying, it's just our rivalries are legendary. If you watch Fight Night, You would see how right.
I heard there was like an after hour show between going through a roster of characters.
Yes, yes, it was very fun. It was very fun.
All
But
right,
anyway,
cool.
but yeah, no, but he made a really good point, and I didn't really think about that. Where he was, and I wanted to see what you thought about that. Where he said, um, "What like this is basically the send off to the games that comes out, and let's say that these games have parity. Well, Xbox can have those developers come in and enhance those games without the devs even have to touch those games that come out. Basically, like you've seen the stuff with Dirt 5, you've seen the stuff with Valhalla, and they was having problems, and they were basically performing lesser, or they were on par with what the PlayStation 5 was doing. But with this FPS boost, they can go and they can change these newer games to come on top of the older games. So is that even possible?
Yeah, I mean, look, it's a PC feature in a console package is the way I would describe it, right?
Right.
Here's the thing: you still want your console to be a console, right? You want to be plug and play, ready to go, get the best optimized experience what you can get out of that box. I think that's what you define a console gamer, and I think that's ultimately what they're looking for. So yeah, making it easier for developers to go post-launch to be able to patch those sort of things, I think that's great. And I think honestly, on older games, right? Like on your PC, you say you upgrade your CPU, you'd be able to up the frame rate because usually they don't lock that on a PC game, right? And so they're not going to go back and try to refresh an older game, right? But you got a CPU that can do it, so why waste the resources? Now you got to be careful. Sometimes putting games all at 60 frames per second screws them up. So you have to have a proper pacing, the animations. Not every game can just do it in regards to that because they're just not the way they're coded and the way they work. So
Yeah, and they said that too.
Yeah.
Yeah, in the
And this
article
is something
last
I've
week.
talked about before, and people got pissy about it. And like frame rate's always king. Well, it helps. And definitely, if you can do it and get the higher resolution and the higher fidelity, why not, right? But if a developer chooses to prioritize frame rate, like for example Halo 5, there's nothing wrong with that, and then they build around it. And some developers are going to, even going into this generation, some developers, even with all these enhancements that Xbox is doing, they're going to choose 30 frames. Same thing on the PlayStation side. It's going to happen there too. So people just need to pump the brakes and just realize that's just how that's going to happen. But it's what you get for the trade-off for that 60 frames per second for 30 or whatever. What fidelity are they giving you for that is going to be a kind of a key question. But more options for developers, remove more barriers, better games. That's what it equalizes to all the time.
So they could definitely do that, which that would be amazing. Because I mean that what that does is that kind of separate that would kind of put the get the onus off of the developing studio that made those particular games, and that they did what they needed to do. And if, and I'm sure that PlayStation can be able to do it with their console or their hardware is compatible or whatever. But
in theory, you
but
can do.
we haven't heard anything
In
about what
theory,
they
you
have
can do
yet.
a lot
So,
of things, but it doesn't mean a PlayStation is going to invest it at that level, right? So,
right.
Xbox has seen benefits enhancing older titles, right, and grandfathering into something else. Anything from a 360 upgrade to the new the Xbox One to the Xbox One to the Xbox One X. And they've seen advantages and they've seen uptakes on those sales, right? So there's a mutual benefit across their partners and vice versa. And Sony may not look at it that way. They may not be worth the investment. But Microsoft also has, they're better equipped for it. They know how to do all that sort of stuff. Scalability on the PC side of thing is, it's kind of their bag. You know what I mean? So.
Yeah. So, yeah, and that just reminds me so much of the PC. That's why I understood the whole situation of why Xbox was leaning and supporting PC the way that they are, because they are. Microsoft is a PC company.
Well, and the great thing is you don't have to spend 20 minutes to find fine tune all the details to get the frame rate pacing you want without screen tearing or anything like that. They just do it for you, and if it doesn't work, they just don't sell you on it. You know what I mean? So I mean that's why I say it's a PC feature in a console package. So
still giving you the plug and play experience without all the hassle.
Exactly.
That's what I like. That's why I'm a console gamer more than I am a PC gamer. But regardless, it's still awesome. Okay, so basically with that, I wanted to jump onto with the narrative aspect of it. So like, okay, just like you with the point that you was making about people that was all about, well, 60 frames or death type of attitude.
Okay.
But
Gotcha.
then you look at a lot of games that won Game of the Year and that people still talk about to this day, and those games were 30 frames per second.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So I'm like, that's the thing. Like, I mean, we cannot be in this. We can't keep talking about what we can demand these things, but we have to be realistic to a point that, like, look, if you keep talking about making these narratives and saying what you want with this and that, then I would assume that some of these people need to be in a studio with some devs working on these games. I mean, I think like
I would love to have them intern for a lot of studios and
I would love for to see that too.
And hear their tone changed, right? Like if I can start a platform where I can take people to different studios and have them intern as like a tester or something like that, and just like have them spit out the things they're saying out into the ether, how much their tune would change would be ridiculous. Here's the thing. You can prioritize whatever you want as a developer, right? 60, 30, whatever you want to do. I mean, hell, we can if FreeSync TVs became more of the norm, we can target other things like 40 and 50. And like, this is something I've been talking about for years. And, I see Digital Foundry just now start talking about it. I'm like, welcome to the party, guys. Like, this is stuff we could have been focused on this whole entire time. But, it was just, I want developers, there's always a glass ceiling and you can always prioritize what you feel is the most important. But the developers know what's the most important for your game, their game, not you, right? You just know certain things you may like or the outcomes of those things you like. That's all you're really talking about. So, if you want to be a 60 frames per second or death guy, I mean, I guess it's free world. You can say whatever you want, but I can't roll with that. You know what I mean? And for the developers that want to do the 60 frames per second, I trust why they do it. I trust why they do 30. I trust why they do those things because they, even at the most basic beginnings of a game development, that's an early decision that's made. It's not a last minute decision that's made for most developers. Just so you know.
Well, let me ask you this question because I'm pretty sure that there will be somebody in the chat, maybe not this chat, but definitely in my chat that would say, well, you could do that on the PC. So, and these consoles are have similar architecture that's PC-esque. So why is it that developers can't go all out and give us the same type of benefits that the PC does?
Well, they give you better benefits.
Oh, okay.
I mean, people don't realize that, right? It's an optimized experience for the piece of hardware that you have, right? PC is, obviously they just give you different performance profiles for you to move the needle enough to accommodate the hardware that you purchased, right? It's not optimized nearly as much as your console. It's just how it is. And so you imagine if a game was really pushing its limits, say at a 30 frames per second game and giving you the highest fidelity. Good luck with on these new consoles making your PC do that at 60 frames in the next couple of years. Good luck. Maybe in 3 years, maybe 4 years, if CPU advancements actually start going the direction it needs to. It's been kind of stale on the CPU side of things for quite a while, to be honest with you. If you compare it to like what GPUs have been doing, GPUs have been leapfrogging each other like leaps and bounds, and CPUs have been kind of just stale. And it's basically we're just now getting AMD to catch up to what Intel's been doing. In some ways, AMD does better, and in some ways, Intel does better. But that's just kind of where we're at right now. So like, yeah, I mean, I'm gonna give you a little secret. PlayStation 4 and Xbox One, every developer could have decided to make their game 60 frames per second if they wanted to. If they prioritized it at the early stages of their development, they could have done that. We could have had it, but they've actually made the choices not to. That's the harsh reality, because there's always something you have to sacrifice in order to get that. So,
right. Right, and that's the whole point of it. Is that, look, I mean, you look at some of these games, that the game of the year. So I'm just going to just point those games out, and you see that the majority of them, that's one of, are, well, the games that are visually spectacular, but they just weren't. Most of them, I don't believe, were 60 frames per second. So that's, it's the experience that you have. And see, this is the thing too, is that that that's why I was bringing up the point about narratives, because the gift and the curse is that, yes, there's so many people that are more in tune into gaming than ever before. But it's also that, and I love the this age, to where even, like, I can have a conversation with a developer, and we can grow a friendship, and I can go to E3, and I can meet other developers and executives and things of that nature. But it's also a curse, is because there's people that they hear something from somebody, and then they get these ideas, and then they want to try to speculate, and instead of saying that, look, this is my thought, this is a question that I may want to ask, they just want to make it out as a truth, or this is how it's supposed to be. And then boom, here's a narrative, and then that narrative has to stick because there's so many people that's following it. And I just, as a person that's a dev that's working behind the scenes, how do and I know that you work with other devs and things like that. How do you guys think about that stuff? Like, I mean, I can imagine, we got to give an executive on here to ask them, what they think about it. But for a developer to hear these narratives, and that these things are, crazy. How do you guys think about that? How do you respond to that?
Deep breaths.
Nicely, I should add. Because,
yeah, no, deep breaths. In regards to that, you try to get them to a point where they can listen to you, and all that good stuff. So, what's
Mhm.
up, One Bad Mother? Thanks for stopping by. Thanks for
What's
saying
going
hi.
on?
Thanks for the follow. Unfortunately, I had the text too small. I couldn't see who it was, so I do apologize. But thanks for following. We're just getting used to the interaction with all you guys
Yeah.
live. But yeah, it's taking a deep breath and having patience with people, because I think a lot of people's knowledge of game development is dated, and that's the thing you got to keep in mind. They're still passionate about it, right? But they have a limited understanding of things, and I think human nature, we take shortcuts. We try to go to the shortest thing we can to get where we need to be, and to have an understanding of things. But sometimes you have to play the longhand game, and that's just kind of how all that stuff works, right?
Mhm.
So yeah, it's rough. I mean, it's just kind of how all that stuff works. In regards to that, I just don't. I try to take it in small strides. I try to see where people are coming from, see where their understanding's coming from, to find something I can relate and agree with them on, right? And then that way I can have a conversation with them about other things that maybe they're not thinking about, right? In
Mhm.
regards to that, because I'm not trying. I think developers are not trying to diminish gamers' understanding of things. We're not trying to make anyone look dumb or anything like that. We're trying to have you guys be able to relate. And sometimes we fall in that pitfall, right? I mean, how many developers got jumped on about certain things or certain statements, and people constantly taking it out of context? And so sometimes you just gotta have to let it take a breather for a while before you can react. It's that whole, it's part of how you act, not how you react to a situation, sort of thing. And find that moment where you can be relatable, and make that connection from an individual developer level. I think that's super, super crucial in regards to that. So it's rough. It's not easy. Most developers rather not interact at all, to be totally honest with you, because they feel like it's a trap, and
Right.
they get jumped on. And I think that's unfortunate. I mean, that's the reason why I stream. That's the reason why I started my YouTube channel. That's the reason why I do this stuff. Why I've been on Next Podcast and other podcasts, is to bridge that gap. To these are not, most of these people are not bad people, right? Most of them are just really passionate people with a limited understanding, and it's just how it goes, and that's fine. And you praise them for the things they get right, and you don't give them attention for the things they constantly get wrong, or makes them less enjoyable to listen to. And they'll figure it out, right? People are not stupid. They can learn it, and they can get better at what they do. And I think we're going to live in an age where gamers are going to obviously give us their opinions, and there's going to be more opinions out there than ever. So we're going to have to learn how to manage that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so, but I think the first step is bridging that gap of understanding between developers and gamers, and being less the man behind the curtain sort of thing, and more engaging as much as we possibly can. And I think it's a hard road to climb, but I think it's going to be a rewarding road for both sides. It just, it's one of those things I try not to take a look at the end goal. I just try to take deep breaths and take it one step at a time. So
Yeah, no doubt about that. I totally appreciate you giving your thoughts about that. I really do. So let's get into the whole point of people overreacting, going crazy, and let's talk about Jim Ryan and what he wanted to talk about, or the information that came out today. Wow. Listen, this is, I'm going to save, a lot of my shade for GRG and for next podcast. So, but here I'm going to keep it subtle. But I will say this: I've been, things, I never come out to be or anything like that. But I mean, it's things that you could just see that were just obvious. The whole thing was that when Xbox made the decision to start putting their games over to PC, PlayStation was just waiting to see how it was going to react, how that was going to do. Like, I mean, it was kind of bold. It was, Xbox was in a bad position. If people want to say desperation, they can say that. But it was a thing to where Xbox needed to do something different than what their competitors was doing, and obviously Xbox made the shift to saying, look, we want to start putting these games out here. There's a lot of potential to have these games go out here, and people on the PC side to check them out. And they got dogged out for it for the beginning, and there was Xbox gamers that were dogging them out for it. Now PlayStation, they did it, I think, in 2019, I believe, when they first sent their web games. And I told people, I said, way before then. I did like 2016, 2017.
They tested the waters, is what you're saying.
Right
on there.
Right,
gotcha.
right. And basically what I was trying to say was that back then in 2016, 2017, I'm like, look, there is so much potential for Sony to make the same move. There shouldn't be any reason why any PlayStation fan or Xbox fan or Nintendo, if Nintendo decided they wanted to do it, to be upset for their console of choice for getting growth. There's nothing wrong with that. I don't understand where people were getting this thought process of that it's a bad, dangerous thing, and that they would take away from people not wanting to buy their preferred console. It just made no sense. And now, since we found out that Sony is definitely going to be all in. Now, like, they were testing the waters, but now they're basically going all in. He comes out and says, look, these games are costing too much money. They're basically, they see that the opportunity is there. They see that they had really good sales with the games that they did drop. There shouldn't be anything that anybody should be upset about. But, of course, there were people saying Jim Ryan death threats. Man, what is going on here? First off, what do you think about people even going that bizarre to give people death threats? And what else do you think about this as Sony move forward and now starting to put most of their first party IPs on PC?
Just so you know, you're a little bit choppy, so if you get broken up, that's what's going on. No, you can't. Sometimes you can't do anything about that, right? But
okay, all right, my bad.
But no, not your bad. Internet's bad in regards to that. But no, I mean, here's the thing: is like, if someone wants to buy a PlayStation, they'll buy a PlayStation. But let's say you force someone to buy a PlayStation, right? And they really, all they do is play the exclusives because that's the only thing they're interested in. They're primarily a PC player. Are you really winning over that console? I mean, are you really win over that the gamer, by forcing them to buy $500 console, say $400 console down the road, whatever ends up price breaking down later? Are you really winning them over? Are they really happy with their purchase, or they are frustrated that they rather spend that money on a different graphics card, right? So sometimes you have to kind of go with the flow in regards to that. And I think, now you have, say, a customer that maybe bought the PC version of the game. He's happy with it because you supported his platform. And then what you do from there is they're like, you know what, maybe I will buy that DLC. You know what I mean? And guess what? Sony makes more money on that DLC and then they're making it on their console. I mean, that's just the harsh reality. And so I think for those type of consumers, I think they're going to end up making more money on them in regards to that. And to be honest with you, there's certain times, PlayStation is not my primary console. I don't have anything against it. I don't dislike it or anything like that. It's just not my primary console. And I have a certain rule when I buy my second console. It has to have like 2 or 3 games that I must have, right, in order to justify the purchase for me. And given the circumstances, if those games released on PC, guess what? I may have not bought a PlayStation, but Sony would have made more money off of me because I would have bought them on the PC side of things, a platform I already owned, and I would have played them sooner and probably paid full pop instead of waiting. You know what I mean? So you have to look at the dollars and cents, and every customer is a little bit different. And it's kind of like we see it all the time. Try being an Xbox guy and convincing a PlayStation guy to buy an Xbox. Try to be a PlayStation guy and convince a diehard Xbox guy to buy a PlayStation. Try to be a PC, try to be a console player and convince a PC gamer that consoles are better, right? Like it doesn't go that way, right? People have their favorites. It's how it's going to be. It's how it's always going to be to some degree. I mean, there's now we're looking at streaming. Streaming's not going away, right? No, and some people are going to prefer streaming over owning a piece of hardware. Cool. That's not going to hurt consoles. It's not going to hurt PCs. It's just going to be part of the ecosystem. What's out there, you know what I mean? And I say more the merrier. If you're welcome to it. If you have lagging problems, guess what? Well, it's it's on your end. That's the experience that you shot for, and if you're okay with it, I'm not gonna critique you for that, right? If you prefer something with slightly lower resolution, I'm not gonna critique you. So it's just one of those weird things that I just don't think it really, really matters, to be honest with you. What matters is if they continue to have funding for these games and make more money than they're spending. And the more money they can make versus what they're spending, the more they can put back into the games, and the better the games can actually be. And because Sony makes some good games. So, they can get even better, believe it or not. As good as they are now, they can get better. So I think we all want that. So.
Yeah, no, there's no doubt about that. There are people out there that really want. There's PC gamers out there that really want to get a hold of games on both sides. And look, and Nintendo, they do things a little bit different. But the thing of it is that when they might have to make that approach here coming up here in the future. I mean, there might be a point to where and I don't know, I doubt it, but Nintendo could probably just keep doing what they're doing with the Switch. Get their Switch to be a 1440p type of little device, and they'll just keep making the same type of games that they've been making, and still be fine without having to do it, because they don't have to make those big budget type of games. But for Xbox and for Sony, they have no choice. Like, I mean, this is what the gamers have been expecting. I mean, this is the whole reason why Xbox has gone and did this acquisition with Bethesda. And then you see, Sony has been doing these type of games for all of last gen forever, like basically. And it just doesn't make any sense when you had people that were part of Naughty Dog, where people praise Naughty Dog. You've had Mark Cerny. You've had Amy Hennig, who was a part of Naughty Dog, and then she left, and then you had Mark Cerny, and you've had other developers even come out there, and you've had Jim Ryan now, but this is the third time. This is Jim Ryan saying this 3 times, and then there was Sean Layton that said it as well before he left. These games cost a lot of money, and these games are going to continue to cost more money. They've ballooned like big time movie budget. Big time budgets of big time movies, and so therefore they got to. The technology is enhanced. All of this, gamers been asking for all of these things. What do some of these gamers expect? I mean, I don't get it. Like this isn't a bad thing.
Well, and I think a lot of gamers forget, like, well, they're making a bunch of money because they'll look at sales or whatever, or they hear about profit earnings through the rabbit hole, what's going on. But I think what people forget sometimes, these are big risk projects, huge risk projects, right? So a lot of times what these publishers are looking for, these platform providers are looking for, is lowering the risk, right? hey, I made this cool game and it broke even. Cool. I made this other game that I didn't think it would be profitable, but it did, right? But it allows them to make those risks so they can actually get those products out the door. And I think that's extremely important for people to understand in regards to that. So when people talk about DLC and they talk about continuous engagement and they talk about different platforms, in this case a PC, they're all interconnected, right? And they talk about streaming. None of this stuff really threatens the other.
No, I mean, I agree. Like, I just don't understand why anybody would try to. They just look. We're so far from the separation of what was in the 90s and the early 2000s. People are more connected than we've ever been. Like, I just don't see how people can still stay in this era of where it was couch co-op when there's people that don't even really do that anymore. You know what I'm saying? So it's just completely like, we have gamers that even today, that there's gamers that's like, man, if they decide to go streaming, I'm just not, I just can't do that. And if you got to think about this though too, Don. You're in your 40s. I'm in my 40s. There's people that does podcasting that's in their late 40s, almost 50s. Some in their 50s, and then other ones in their late 30s. That try to give this narrative that streaming is not for you. Streaming is bad. This is not what gaming is about. Try to say that to somebody that's in their teens, that's just getting up, that's in college now, or just getting in their 20s, or somebody that's like a preteen. You see what I'm saying? Like,
I know more people in their 40s and 30s that love the idea of streaming, right? Like, I have a neighbor as a diehard PlayStation guy. He's not into buying Xbox, right? But as soon as he heard about xCloud, he's like, you know what? I don't like Xbox all that much, but I'm not going to turn down a good game if I like it, right? So I can just stream it. Oh, it's a little bit subpar experience. Cool, whatever, right? He knows what he's getting himself into. I think most kids honestly know what they get themselves into. And sometimes people graduate to different things, right? The television I used to play on was a 13-inch television as a kid, right? Those days are long gone. I mean, borderline, we have tablets bigger than the screens I used to game on as a kid. Yes. So and it keeps getting bigger. The average screen size in the household is getting bigger too. So obviously the demand of hardware under the television is there still as well. So what it is the market's growing. It's growing and it's involving more gamers and different types of gamers. Sometimes I call them like lost soul gamers that used to game, but you're like, new console, I'm not bothering. You know what I mean? But if they hear about the latest, whatever Halo or the, whatever product, and it's like, hey, is it on streaming? Oh, okay, I can stream it. Cool, right? No big deal. And for them, they know there's a difference, but they're cool with that. And that's what I'm saying. Like, if a gamer is cool with the difference in the experience, what is to say that that person can't have fun with that, right? Like, that's not. Mm-hmm. You're invited to the party. You know what I mean? As far as I'm concerned, in regards to that. But I also have a view of it. I don't feel like it threatens anything. Like, I think a lot of people come from a perspective of, oh, it's going to do this, it's going to wipe it out. No, gaming is a totally different interaction than watching a movie, right? So the way I look at it is, there will always be room for people to kind of be fluid and move between all the different sort of platforms, the way you can consume games. And some people are just going to consume games a very specific way. And that's cool. That's fine. It goes both directions, right? Like, I think, and what's more important is people are buying content, they're enjoying their content, and they're getting the most out of it. And that's, I think, how you want to consume it, that's your business. I kind of joke around, like, we talk about TVs, right? I don't care if you have a Vizio. I don't care if you have a Samsung. I don't care if you have a Sony, right? We're all playing the same game. We're all enjoying ourselves. And we're not quite having exactly the same experience, but we're enjoying ourselves, right? So why can't we focus on us enjoying it? And, obviously, there's room for multiple televisions in the world. There's going to be room for multiple ways to consume video games. And there's nothing wrong with that. So.
And that's another thing, too, when you brought up about televisions, right? Like, I mean, you and me, we're
Samsung guys, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, we're Samsung guys, but I'm saying in the sense of, we like new tech, and every time, like, now I'm finna give me a mini LED when they drop. Like, I'm like, I gotta have one. And so it's like, for maybe like like for my daughter, for instance, she's not like big into different televisions and things like that. And then like there's other people that I've talked to that are younger that like, well, like her friends or things like that. They're not into television. They're into their phones. They're into seeing stuff off of their tablets or something like that.
Hmm.
So you have to look at it from that point of view. Is okay, yeah, I like to have the experience, and as long as it's not interfering to where they take away my experience of when I want to play games on my television, or if gamers want to play on their monitors, then that for having them to do streaming, I think that's positive. And look, that's part of the whole experience of where gaming is not excluding people. That's one
Mhm.
thing that gaming has always kind of been. It's always had that roadblock where it's excluded someone from the other, and
The
now we're
haves and the
getting closer.
has-nots sort of things,
Yeah,
right? So,
yeah, right.
and that, I mean, I use my nephew for example. Like, obviously, I've seen him in his teen years, like diehard 360 fan, right? Xbox One, he kind of weaned over to the PC side of things, and he started doing tablet style games as well. Like, in that was his jam for like 3 years, right? Next thing you know, I see him on his Xbox again, right? Like, it's cool. You know what? You know what's crazy about the difference of my nephew versus the kids we knew growing up? Those
Different
kids would have just walked away from gaming, not because they hated or anything like that. They just lost interest,
interest. Yeah,
right? And so
right.
keeps him engaged into the experience and keeps him from walking away, and that's super super important in regards to that. And so that's where that constant engagement and having a way to reach that audience at all times matters so much. And so, and we've all known people like that. I mean, I'm talking to all gamers who are listening to this podcast. We all know somebody at some point in time, just gaming wasn't a priority, right? Buying a console wasn't a priority. They're not into it in the same way you are, right? Well, this keeps them engaged, keeps them from leaving, and that's super important. And so I think, as I said, I don't feel like it threatens it in any sort of way,
No,
because there's always going to be a difference, and that's fine. And because there's going to be a difference, people are going to want one or going to want the other. And honestly, if you look at the way Microsoft has their structured, they're taking the same hardware that I can purchase, right, and they're putting it in a server rack. Two for one, right?
right,
That's
right.
perfect
Yeah,
for them, right?
yeah.
And then the same token, like, why not? Wouldn't you keep doing that? Because the idea for hardware in sort of a server space is super powerful hardware with really efficient energy consumption. Well, guess what else does that? A game console. So if you can continue to go down that road, you can continue to make that hardware available if you do it smartly to the consumer. So I just don't see it going away in regards to that, and that's fine. Some people are going to argue with me. I guess time will tell, and usually I'm always right when time comes to it. So I'm not worried about it.
Oh,
So
listen to you. Listen to you. It's okay. All right. But I mean, no. I mean, you make a great point, and that's another thing too. People need to understand is that why would they take away consoles so quickly when the infrastructure itself is not ready to go yet. I mean, there's still people in the United States, the richest country in the world, that doesn't have quality internet. So if that's the case, what do you think about other places and around the world? Then there are some places definitely in the world that has better internet than the United States. Like, you know, it's far in between. So it's going to take some time for streaming to actually really rev up. I'm just excited that they're trying to take gaming to the whole next level with that. And I appreciate with Phil Spencer coming out and making that clear, because there was all this speculation going on behind what Stadia decided to do.
because Stadia is
Yeah, since they
kind of
bowed out.
wishy-washy to a lot
Hmm.
of consumers. Yeah, consumer confidence is low. I don't think Stadia is even gone. To be honest with you, to a certain
No, I
degree,
don't think so either. I think
I
they're
just
just going
don't.
to
I don't.
restructure it somehow.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to invest in the same way
Hmm.
as Microsoft is. I think they're looking at just like, we're not going to be the dominant platform, but what we can be is an alternative platform, and there's no reason why we can't have games ported over to our platform. And I think that's the concept. That's the approach they're going with, and it just, it's cool. They're a business; they have to decide what's right for them in regards to that. But you can still do this. Like, you're streaming on YouTube, they can have a link. Hey, KMEGA's streaming this game, and then next thing you know, it launches you into Stadia. I mean, that's
Mm-hmm.
something that can still happen with Stadia. How it works, I think that's brilliant. And if someone wants to buy on Stadia, I don't care. Then again, I just don't care where someone wants to buy their content. That's entirely up to them. In regards to that, and here's the thing: crossplay is going to be more and more of a thing as time goes on. So it's not like I'm losing a friend to another platform that I'm not going to be able to play with, right? I actually have more of a chance of losing that friend by not having alternative avenues for that person to consume content, because I always look at that, I call it the lost soul gamer, where like the gamer is just kind of forgotten about and not included, and they have other stuff going in their life, you know what I mean? And that if that keeps them engaged, cool. I'm all about it in regards to that. And here's the thing too, like, you remember when everyone thought PC gaming was going to die because you couldn't buy PC games at a local store?
Right.
PC gaming has been bigger than ever, right? It hasn't affected in a negative way at all. It's changed, it's transformed. You have to buy it, but it's still a game that's installed on your hard drive. You still play it, if you know what I mean. So, it's just I don't know. I don't know what else I can say about it other than what I've already said. But people are always going to be insecure, right? I guess is my thing. So.
Well, I mean, just look at the games, the hard copies with consoles. That just it's diminishing. Like it was at that time where people were like, no, I don't want DRM, and I don't want this, and I don't want that, and everything now is slowly changed, and the gaming industry is still getting what they want. It's just some things that they haven't been able to get over with, which I'm proud of from the gamers to stand up for. But there's other things that I thought that was just ridiculous, and and really having digital games, that was one of them. I really could not believe that people thought that it was a problem to where you had, well, you don't own that content. Okay, I get what you're saying on that, but if they decide to shut down those servers on that game, what's the value of that disc?
Well, and you never own the content in the first place. It's a licensing rights that they give you.
Right.
And people don't really understand the ins and outs if you don't work in the industry and you don't do that sort of stuff. But it's just one of those things. I know people are just, with time, I think time gets understanding. And when you kind of splash cold water on somebody, sometimes it's it takes them for a spin, and sometimes their knee-jerk reactions to lash back out.
And this point right here is just crazy. Okay, so my last point on this, or my last question to you on this topic is, so what does this mean for Sony going forward? Because I think that now, since they've let the cat out of the bag officially, does this mean that there could be potential that they might be open to wanting to bring their platform, some of their games, maybe over to Xbox or Sony, or I mean, they're doing the one thing that Xbox was beginning to do in the beginning of last gen with the whole movies. I mean, I think they're catching it at the right time. When you look at, they got The Last of Us coming out, then I think they're going to have a Twisted Metal series. And Xbox was going to do that because they had the Xbox Studios. And then, people didn't resonate with it that well. But I think now with the success of The Witcher, now you look into stuff with Disney Plus, with WandaVision and all that other stuff that's going to be coming out. I think that Mandalorian, I think Sony is catching on at the right time. Do you think that we'll start seeing more and more of this content be able to get to other gamers on top of with their TV shows, but also with like maybe their games?
I think it will happen, but I don't think it's going to be a priority. That's the way I would look at it. So I don't think it's going to be day and date. I think they're going to focus primarily on their console, is my guess. And then they're going to work on porting it over, because it takes more work to port over. They're not.
So you don't think it'll be a day and date to PC and
no.
their titles coming out at the same time?
They're not. Their games are not structured like that. I mean, they could, but that's going to take a complete overhaul how they do things. And eventually, I think they would want to get to that point. But I think the priority is going to be their consoles, and the secondary is going to be their PC launch, right? And I think that's going to be their kind of approach going forward, where I think Microsoft's going to be day and date, and it's going to continue to be day and date, and they're getting better at it each iteration, each game that they release. So they realize they have to at least compete in some sort of space there, in regards to that. And so, they don't want to lose lost opportunity for sales. My question is, are they going to continue to partner up with Epic Games? Are they going to do with Steam? Or are they going to try to release their own store, which is possible, their own store and their own launcher? I can see them doing that.
What about with Epic? Because they do have some purchase into Epic.
Yeah, but I don't think they have much say in it. They don't have enough to push them around, to be honest with you.
But you don't think that Epic would have an opportunity to give to kind of put it to Steam a little bit to say, look, we got these PlayStation games that's going to be day and date, or
I bet Epic
come out early.
I bet Epic would love that. In regards to that, I don't see any reason why they wouldn't like that. I just don't know if that's in Sony's best interest or not.
Okay.
In regards to that, so it has to be in both parties' best interest, and I don't know where they're kind of coming from. But I know they're obviously going to release stuff on the platform. So, I mean, it just kind of is what it is.
Yeah, no doubt about that. No doubt about that. Well, at least we now officially know that God of War, Ragnarok, and that did just surprise me that that GT wasn't going to be coming out this year. But I mean, I don't know. I shouldn't be surprised because they usually take their time when it comes to their racer for Gran Turismo. So, and that's really good too. And maybe they're just trying to wait and see what the competition is going to be like, because I mean, we haven't really heard anything about motorsport. So I think that they're kind of trying to fill each other out to see who's going to have the.
I am so impatient about motorsport right now. You don't even know.
Yeah,
I am so impatient.
They were talking about it supposed to come out this year, but then now I think they delayed their game until next year as well. So I don't know what's going on, but obviously they're going to be some huge racers. I think they're going all in.
Yeah, they've gone quiet about it. But I think their primary attention's on Halo, and it's just going to be a slow ramp up until that product is ready for launch. And then they can drop Forza at the last minute. Hey, you're getting Forza this year too. You know what I mean? Like, and people will be like, oh, well, that's what I've been waiting for, right? In regards to that, I mean, I'm okay with them taking a break. I mean, they got to do what they got to do, whatever their ambitions are. But I'm gonna be honest with you. The last Forza hasn't held me over to motorsport. The Horizon 4 just wasn't quite enough meat on the bones for me personally. Keep me satisfied.
You could kind of tell that they didn't put it, because I'm telling you, Forza Horizon 2 is one of the biggest racers I've ever played, ever. That took me so long to finish. So long. But in 3 was big. It had a lot. But 4, it didn't. I beat it, but of course I can't really keep saying that I beat the regular little campaign part, and then I beat the islands, but I haven't done everything else that's within that they've added throughout their little seasons. So I need to go back in there and play that. But I love 4, but I think for me, 3 was probably Forza Horizon 3 was probably the best Forza Horizon game, and then. For me, Motorsport 7 was special. I know there was a lot of people that griped about it, but I thought that it was a really special racer.
It was a lot of the multiplayer I think people had a hard time with, because it was a little bit. Some people, that's all they do. Like, they go into multiplayer, they don't do the campaign stuff like you and I, and it fell a little short for what their expectations were. So I get where they're going with that. But the little bit of multiplayer that we've done on Horizon works flawless. You know what I mean?
Right, works great. Yeah. Works great.
Except for having Sir X-Men in there, scraping paint. But outside of that, I mean,
you mean X-Bot? You know what I'm saying?
X-Bot doesn't play Forza anymore. Somehow he's still ahead of us in the charts, but I don't ever see him on that game. I don't know what's going on. I don't know.
He needs to get off of the golf, and we get our practice on, so we can get ready for next week.
Is it so this weekend or next weekend we're doing that?
It's next weekend where the tournament happens. So we need to go ahead and do that, work together, because I mean, it would be kind of crazy. Bot's been playing golf, and then he comes in and he's last place. I mean, that would be.
We'll just give him a gravity hammer, and that's the only thing he can use when he's there. So it's like golf.
Really, is that it? Okay, yeah, all right. You got hammer duty. hammer time.
Yeah,
So
pretty much. Cord, thanks for stopping by. Hey guys, everyone that's in the
thank
chat, thank you. We appreciate it. Filling out the screen on the stream, so actually it looks like people come by and watch us live, so we appreciate that.
yeah, I got one more, and then we can go ahead and get ready to wrap it up. And that is with I guess I need to make this point too. Before I talk about the Masquerade, let me bring up this point about what I've seen. Somebody gave this to me, which was really interesting, which was about Bethesda and their sales numbers compared to PlayStation's Xbox numbers compared to PlayStation's numbers when it came to Bethesda games. And in this whole conversation, this is something that I'll definitely be talking about on GRG as well in length. But it was interesting because out of all the Bethesda games, you would think because of Sony had so many millions upon millions of consoles more than the Xbox One, and then of course the 360 I think was the market leader at the time, but PlayStation still overtook it in overall sales.
Yeah, at the end of the life cycle.
Yeah, at the end of the life cycle.
And that was worldwide sales, I think.
Yeah, worldwide
what it was
sales,
versus US. Yeah.
Right, but Xbox dominated. Dominated all the Bethesda games except for about 6. I'll read these games out to you that PlayStation had the most. Fallout 4. PlayStation had 15,500,000. Xbox had 15,200,000. You had Prey, which was 1,700,000, and then you had on Xbox it was 1,500,000. You had the Evil Within, which was 5,000,000, 5,800,000. You had 3,100,000 on the Xbox. You had the Evil Within 2, which had 2,000,000, which was kind of crazy because I know there was a lot of people that enjoyed the second Within, the Evil Within, but the Evil Within 2 did 2,100,000, and on the Xbox it did 820,000. Then you had Wolfenstein: The New Order, which was 4,400,000, and on Xbox it was 4,100,000. And then you had Wolfenstein: The Old Blood, which was 1,400,000, and you had 770,000 on the Xbox. Those were the games that, out of all the Bethesda games, where Sony had the lead. In some of those, not very much, maybe just a couple of 100,000. All the rest of them, like Elder Scrolls and New Vegas and Fallout 3 and Fallout 76, Doom Eternal, just regular Doom, and you look at Dishonored 1 and 2, Rage 1 and 2, and this is the one that really tripped me out, the Elder Scrolls Online destroyed the PlayStation in those numbers. I mean, you look at Fallout 3, Xbox had 15,100,000 and PlayStation had 5,900,000, which, I mean, these are fantastic numbers. I mean, we're talking about millions and millions. And then, of course, when you look at like the difference between the Evil Within and then you had on the Evil Within 2, 800,000 compared to 2,000,000. It seems like there we can see where Xbox can go to let those games to be multi-plat, if they decided that they wanted to go that route. But yeah, I mean, it just made perfect sense. The more and more that I see when I look at this graph, it just makes perfect sense that the Bethesda ZeniMax, Xbox marriage, this was gold for them. What do you think?
I don't think it's a bitter relationship. I think it's going to go over well in regards to that. And I don't think people are on the Sony side are going to hate me for saying this, but I don't think they will lose any money by not releasing it on their platform. And that's just kind of the harsh reality, because they have, because the way Microsoft's structured, they have so many avenues that are affordable for gamers, right? You can stream it. You don't have to buy a console. So it's not like they're keeping it away from you. They provided a means that's very reasonable for you to consume content. You can buy it via Game Pass if you own a console. You can also do it via streaming too, but you get where I'm going with that, right? So if you already own a PC and that's where you like the game, you can do it there. So for Microsoft, there's not a huge benefit to push it on Sony's platform, if that makes any sense. because they have these other avenues that are continuously growing on their side that they didn't have really the majority of last generation. They had at the tail end, but they didn't have the majority of it, right? So, and then you also forget that they have multiple pieces of hardware at different performance profiles that will be able to run these games, right? So you have the Series S and the Series X. So I mean, they're going to be able to grow. They're going to be able to do very, 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 very well. And their eyes are on much bigger things than just their console. Console's a very big part of that pie. PC is a very big part of the pie, and eventually the streaming will also be a big part of that pie. But the goal is not to lose any of those consumers. His goal is to continue to get as many of those consumers as much as possible. So,
yeah, no, and that was another thing too that I wanted to add on this. This was from GameStat.com, and GameStat.com, they Xbox stopped releasing information for a while now. So these are still older numbers.
Oh yeah,
and this is what's incredible is that Xbox we're talking about, this was Xbox One. This wasn't, the Xbox One was, they were being destroyed, if in a sense, if you want to talk about destroyed. I mean, the Xbox One was still a successful console.
It just wasn't the dominant console.
It wasn't as popular.
Yeah, that's
as
fine.
dominant as the PlayStation 4. And to still outperform the PlayStation in those big titles, and some of those big titles, is pretty impressive. So yeah, and the game that I thought that would definitely maybe multiplat would be the Elder Scrolls Online. They don't have, like you're right, like you said, they don't have to. And with the help of PC, and the one thing that people may not understand too is that Game Pass will definitely elevate. And if they decide to put Game Pass on like televisions and other devices, and I'm not talking about other consoles, I'm just saying just other devices where they could just take any type of, mostly like I'm thinking televisions, that would change the game completely. So they can recoup that in no time. So yeah, that was pretty slick. But I wanted to hear your thoughts about that. Okay, so last topic, and that is basically about the Masquerade. The Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines 2, and this was interesting because this came out today, and it basically said the Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines 2 has been delayed again. It will no longer be released in 2021, and it was originally supposed to launch in 2020. And the development team, Hardsuit Labs, will no longer be leading the development of the game. Paradox Interactive made the announcement at the bottom of the financial report, but did not announce who the new lead development studio would be. So what is this? And is this basically telling me that a game that was shown at E3 about 2 years ago and had a lot of people talking well about it, is this game pretty much in limbo, in development hell right now?
I mean, I've talked about this before. I think a lot of games are in development hell before they get released. Yeah. And honestly, some of the best games out there are games games of passion, people pushing the limits, and sometimes breaking it before they're able to get it fixed again, right? So that puts a lot of stress on the team, pressure on the team, and sometimes people's ambitions are bigger than what they're capable of doing in the time frame they need to do and the budget that they need to get it done in. So I mean, it could be obviously, maybe they're what they felt like, the publisher felt like, hey, this is what they can actually offer. That studio, I think it's run its course, and maybe they have another studio in mind to pick up where it left off in regards to that. Or they may scrap the game entirely and have a whole nother developer do it because maybe they want to retain the franchise to continue to grow. So who knows where it's really going to go in regards to this. I mean, there's games that get canceled all the time that you guys don't hear about. I won't be honest with you. I mean, I have there's this Viking character guy I have on my desktop. It was a game that concept art I came up with for a game I was working on, and thankfully I retained all the intellectual property rights when they decided not to go for it. But as far as I understood, it was go green, and it was getting ready to make some big moves, and next thing you know, they pulled the plug on it, right? You know what I mean?
Well, what the problem was with that is because you probably, did y'all have a name for it?
The game?
Yeah.
No, it wasn't. It didn't have an IP yet.
Oh, it wasn't. You had a character. Well, all you got to do is just get this woolly beard that I have, add on, put a little color on them, and then call it the KMEGA the KMEGA Warrior saga, and then just go there. You know what I'm saying?
So,
Mega saga, and then just go there.
Well, I mean, he's kind of got Wreck-It Ralph dimensions. Maybe I'll post that on Twitter so you guys can see the character.
Okay, Wreck-It Ralph. Oh, so was it? Okay, yeah.
Yeah, it's like a Viking guy with like big old fists and stuff like that. It was.
That's perfect. I can do that. Look, I got big hands.
But I mean, but that's a game that I was working on and I was doing artwork for, and I was putting my heart and soul into it, and then next thing you know, it gets DOS boot. You know what I mean? And there's no public announcements, and because there was no prior launches, no one ever heard about it, right? I know some of the some really talented people in the industry that never released a game, but they're developers. They've worked on 4 or 5 projects, right? Because games get canceled, right? They don't make the final cut. So I mean, just how that stuff goes, man. Just how that stuff goes. So I mean, it's not everyone's going to be able to release something to a final product, and not everyone's going to. Not every team's going to gel to get well together, right? And sometimes certain teams are not the best team for a game. It's really hard to say. How long has this game been in development? I really haven't been keeping up with it.
Man, that part I can't remember. I know it's been in development for a while. I mean, because they had it slated to come out in 2020. I think it's been in development for about 7 years, 6 to 7 years. But
sometimes
but that's me kind of guessing on that. It could have been longer, but normally for a game that's supposed to be a big budget film, a big film. I got films on my mind now.
Gotcha.
Game. It's they usually cap around that that 5 to 7 or the 5 or plus year a time frame. So obviously, but that's the thing that bothers me about this, because when I seen the trailer and everything, it looked great, and I'm like, oh, okay. And then people were saying, it looked kind of funny, it did great, but again, there was just one of those things, kind of like with the whole Halo situation, where the game, this is not what the final product is going to look like, but the game still looked interesting, and for it to get to this point to where it seems like it's like a year from release, and then they just scrap it all or just shut down the people's work like that's I don't know, that means something went really bad. And it could have been the pandemic had maybe some things to do with it, or maybe there was some bad press or something that happened. I don't know, but I mean, it's sad. It's sad because you got all those people doing all that hard work, and then next thing you know, nobody will ever have the chance to actually see it. Especially if another studio comes in there, and then, because how does that work? Do they just do they overwrite their work, or do they still keep their assets, or do they, and then they just enhance what they want to do with it? How does that work when another studio just comes in and takes over?
It just depends on what direction they want to take it, and where the publisher wants them to take it. And usually the publisher drives a lot of that, but the publisher owns all that stuff. That's what people don't understand. So like, when I work for a company, it's usually under contract, and the work that I do for them, I did the work, but they own it. I don't own that, so they can do whatever they want with it. They can throw it out, or they can recycle it, or whatever. It depends on what the other studio sold them on. I mean, this has happened before. I mean, look at Kojima. What was that game with? It was a Metal Gear game that Kojima had another studio pick up. I forgot the studio's name, but you know what I'm talking about, right?
You talk about
it's like Raiden, I think, was the character.
Oh yeah.
So eventually, remember, like, he was working on that project and it wasn't going well, and for whatever reason, and they handed over to, I forgot the studio's name. Like, they're known. They worked on that Dragon game for Xbox that got canceled. Platinum Games, yeah. So Platinum Games took it over, and they had a roadmap, and they
had you have to remind me of that? You said the Dragon. Okay,
yeah. All right. But Platinum Games took it over, right? And they did, and they did a good job, and they were able to
do a great job. That's a dope game. Yes,
they were able to run with that baton, and they addressed all the problems they were dealing with the direction of the game and what they wanted to do with the game. So you never know. Sometimes these are good things. Sometimes these are what saves the game. You just don't know what's going on there. You don't know what the struggles are. And every project's got a different set of problems. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So no, it makes perfect sense.
So yeah, it's all of it's different. Like, the problems, like, for example, Bungie deals with is different than, say, the problems that, say, like another studio would have a problem with. You know what I mean? So just everyone's got their own challenges, their own ambitions, and they have their own problems. So I would say it's always important to kind of wait these things out and see where it's going. It's okay to have an opinion, but I would highly advise not overly expressing yourself on those opinions until you have more information. Because it's just going to look like egg on your face, and then you have to kind of defend what a lot of people will do is to defend their side, and to be honest with you, just going down a rabbit hole that just makes you look bad. So doesn't mean you can't have an opinion. Just wait it out, see what's going on, pump the brakes, and get more information as time goes on. So
right. Okay, now I did say that was the last topic, but I lied. I got one more, which is and this is a fun one because basically this is just speculation. Okay, so Phil Spencer, the interview that he had where he was talking about streaming and how that was going to continue to, and they had no plans of getting rid of it. Or matter of fact, he didn't say that word, no plans. He said it's not going anywhere. They're staying fully committed. In the background, we know that Phil Spencer likes to tease things in his background because there's people that's always nosy and want to get into stuff. I jumped into it and now I'm nosy. And in the background, he had a Switch next to a little gold Xbox, looked like hard drive, which I don't know what that could be, which I want to speculate and say, could this be a potential for more Nintendo games, classic Nintendo games coming over to the Xbox? I let's hope so. But then he also, the big thing right here that's really crazy is that he has Xbox globe, like I got right here. He got the same. Well, it's his a little bit flashier than mine, but just like this right here. And I'm looking at your camera. There's a little delay, but anyway, like this, right? Yeah. And right next to it, he has a Moon Man, and then next above that, it's a skull with a crown on it. Next,
skull with a crown kind of reminds me of the icon from Halo.
Okay, we can go with that. You know what? We can go with that. But the Moon Man by the Xbox lamp, which is like because we consider the moon, and then you have that skull with the crown on it. Could that have something to do with maybe like a Kojima game might be coming to Xbox? Maybe maybe some
I have to see I have to see his background and start snooping around what I would think about that.
Yeah, because the Switch thing with the it looks like it's gold, but it looks like it's a hard drive. That kind of gives me the indication that there might be some games coming from Nintendo to Xbox, and maybe there might be vice versa, maybe doing some more collaboration. But the Moon Man with the Xbox, little symbol, and then the Skull guy. I don't know. Now the Skull guy, you did bring that up about Halo, which
because we're playing the Master Chief Collection. I don't forget what game mode it is, but I think it's King of the Hill or something like that, where it has the Halo type skull. It has a very particular look, and it has like this crown with the little points are elongated with the little balls that are whatever the little rounded off areas at the top of the crown that's there. I'd be kind of curious if it's done in that style or if it's something totally different. And you also got to remember the skull with the crown. Wasn't that also a Ubisoft game with the hacking game they were doing? You know what I'm talking about?
That's right. Yeah.
So, they have that kind of symbol with that. Maybe it was just like a kind of a nod to that. I mean, that could be as simple as, hey, we're that's going to Game Pass. You know what I mean? Like who knows? I would have to see the context of the background in regards to that. But I'll tell you what, though, we need to start adding stuff in our background just to make people guess things.
You know what I mean? Yeah, I plan on adding some more different stuff here in the future. I know that I know people have hit me up and said they like the poster of the Avengers and the X-Men, and then like right here is the other poster of Spider-Man and Spider-Man fighting all of the Spider-Mans, like the Doppelganger and Carnage and Venom and.
I'm not gonna
Hobgoblin at the same time. So,
I'm not gonna lie. Your wall is about as vanilla as it gets,
bro. Like I got posters, but see, this is the problem. Right here on this right side, right here, I have nothing but Captain America stuff right here, from his side to the other side of the wall by my television. Right.
Gotcha.
And then like the craziest thing that I got in here is a Mickey Mouse clock that I had as a little kid, and I never got rid of it. And I still have the old clock right there above my television. And then I have like this other stuff perched with. I got some Tekken stuff, some pops. Then I got some Spider-Man stuff Then that Black Panther over there. Then
Wait. How many
yeah,
pops
yeah.
do you have to be a streamer or a gamer now? Because
I don't know.
I don't have any, to be honest with you. I feel like I'm out of the club.
I got about 20. I got about 20 pops.
20 pops?
Yeah, I got about 20 pops.
You know what we need to do? We need to get custom pops done for us and do that as a giveaway.
I like that. I wouldn't mind a KMEGA bobblehead, but let me get Shade first. I got to hit that barbershop. I don't get this damn thing on right now. I'm gonna cut the beard off. I just got to trim it and get it right.
We can give away bobbleheads. That'd be awesome too.
Yeah. But also, this Moon Man and Xbox symbol, it could be some about Starfield. If that could
possible,
that exactly, it could be some about Starfield. But anyway, okay, I digress. I'm tired of looking at that. He said I can't take my eyes off of the off the turtle.
just so you guys know, that's my wife talking there.
I did that to Lemon at Fight Night. Oh, he got angry. He got real angry about that. It was funny. But anyway. All right. So, yeah, you know what? When I'm having all this fuzzy stuff going on, it seems that my PC needs an update. So that's probably why I've excused that if I had my voice coming in and out and things like that. And I also had like about 40 tabs up because I was looking for stuff to talk about. And then I didn't take them off when I started, so I apologize for that.
So what really KMEGA did is he bought a new washer and dryer, and it's running off his internet as well. So that's what's really messing it up.
Yes. Now, since I'm getting Samsung televisions, I like to get Samsung washer and dryers now. So, I didn't even know they made that type of stuff, but they do. So, anyway, and it's champagne color.
Oh,
anyway.
So you wash your clothes in champagne with it? Is that what you do?
Yeah, I mean, of course. Yeah. I mean, I'm elevated to the next level. I don't have the suicide doors on my Jag yet, but I mean, I don't have a Jag.
You got to start small, man.
Right. So
see,
let's
Jag is the type of car when you double park it, and then someone says something to you, but you just kind of look at them and say, "But it's a Jag." You know what I mean?
Yeah,
and they give you a pass, right? It's kind of like you can just be a little bit smug, and they give you a little bit of a pass. I mean, it's the point of owning that car. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. So, all right, man. Let's get out of here, man. It's another good show. Yeah, we'll be doing it again here in another 2 weeks. Got anything you want to say before we get out of here, Don?
No. 24 hours. This is going to be up on KMEGA's channel, ready to go. We'll get the volume a little bit louder for you guys. So those have been mentioning that. Let me know how the volume level is. We're going to be playing around with that. So just because Twitch broadcasts it totally different than YouTube, so the volume levels are going to be different. So I have to make some corrections post podcast in order to get you guys taken care of. And as a tradition, we're going to go ahead and raid somebody. So in the future, if you have suggestions who we're going to raid, let us know. Say it in the chat, that sort of thing. We're here to help people out. Feel free to give them a follow. Be cool. Make someone's day. It makes a difference for another gamer, and that's what we're here to do. We're here to bring gamers together, not split us apart. So let's see what we can do with that. So wait just a second here. KMEGA will keep you entertained as I try to find someone to raid.
I don't have my soundboard. I don't have it turned on. So yeah, no. But yeah, while he's over here doing that, appreciate everything for everybody coming by and stopping by. Hi, Miss Dawn. It's great. I know that was horrible to see the gyrating frog. I was annoyed every time that I used to see it when we used to show it on Next Podcast. That I thank God that we don't have to see that no more. And also, I need to bring in my gameplay. I've said that for like the last month, and I'm gonna have to put in my gameplay. And I don't have to show any gameplay of me beating up on Don, because as you've seen, he did try to throw some shade by throwing a little bit of him beating me in a Tekken match, which, as you've seen, it was just only one match. But that's for another discussion.
I would be careful. Anyway, I have more.
You don't have that many, sucker. So I don't really want to hear that.
I got hard drive space. I'm ready to go.
Oh my God! Well, hey, anytime you want to come in and join us for Fight Night every once in a while, and want to play a particular game, that's fine. Matter of fact, I got to get me revenge on Attic from the Iron Lords podcast, because we was playing what was that? Naruto 4, Naruto 4 Storm 4, whatever. And yeah, he's really good at it. He he beat my tail. He beat me. I fought him like maybe 8, 9 times in a row. I got close, like 2 or 3 matches, but other than that, he just dominated me. So I got to get some revenge on that. We played some Samurai Showdown. We were really getting down, and I got to give props to Handy. Handy was doing some work. Handy was really playing really well. So
nice.
Yeah. Also, yeah. So you can check me out on the GRG podcast every Friday, 8 p.m. Central. I know for sure that I got Dreadpool coming. I think my boy Sinister said that he might join us as well. He did say, but he didn't really actually confirm it yet. But he said he wanted to come on to the show, so check that out because I definitely got Dreadpool coming, and then we'll be on the next podcast, which will be fun. So go check that's on Xpot 44H channel, and then of course me and Don are streaming on Saturdays. Don't really know what we'll be streaming. Maybe Destiny. Sea of Thieves was wild last week, but I don't know if we'll be playing that or we'll try to play.
We got to mix it up, but we also have to do some Halo and all that sort of stuff. Speaking of that's who we're gonna raid. We're gonna raid someone's playing Halo, but he's playing Halo in a Master Chief helmet. So make sure to give this guy a follow here.
Yes. It should be a lock helmet, but I'll tolerate the Master Chief helmet anyway. So check
baby
it
steps.
Out, every Sunday night, Fight Night Sunday. So check us out, and then Don, you can do your sign out so we can get out of here, man.
Yeah. I'm gonna be dropping a couple of videos this week because I'm past due. I haven't been up on my YouTube channel, so that's gonna be happening. But I will be streaming Saturday, Sunday, and Wednesday, so tomorrow as well. So yeah, check me out. I'll try to get it started earlier and be playing some games and interacting with you guys. So it's gonna be a lot of fun. So. We're going to go ahead and raid this guy. He's playing in a Master Chief helmet, so, I mean, that takes a whole nother talent. Give this guy a follow.
Have a good one, everyone.
Oh, wait. It's like 7 seconds. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I'm hitting that button. Here we go.
Peace. I'm leaving.